Okay, so let's get into tonight about organizing. And I hear this a lot. I've said it in the past, and you probably have said it or have heard it. You know, our workplace is really a pain. I feel like we're always looking for things. We try to get organized, you get it set up, it's good for a while, and before you know it, it's all a mess again, right? How many of us have gone through that? I'm number one right there. You know, this desk probably looked nice at some point, and now look at it. So how can we get organized and stay that way? Well, it always helps to step back and say, well, why does this happen? Why does a nice organized desk turn into this? And if you think about it, the way organizing typically works is you're kind of out of control and you say, all right, we got to get organized. Let's clean everything up. We stop what we're doing. We get it clean and organized, and then we get back to work. Okay. So getting back to work means, well, we kind of forget about organizing. And so what happens, it's fine for a while, but the first thing is put out of place and we don't really notice it. And then another thing's out of place and another thing. And before you know it, it grows. I always say that piles create piles. You know, if you put a pile on the floor of messed up stuff, it will grow. It's just, it happens that way. So the way you deal with this, there is a way to deal with this. And this is what you're going to learn tonight. The way to get organized and stay that way is you have to have a system, okay, and a standardized way of doing things that everybody understands and engages in maintaining the standard as part of everyday work. So it's not, we're going to get back to work, that staying organized and actually improving the organization is part of what everybody does all the time. So I'll show you how that works tonight. So before we jump right into the 5S organizing technique, step back a second and think about the workplace, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about organizing the workplace. And it's important for you to understand this so you can see how 5S operates. Basically, the workplace is where the work is done, right? I mean, it's an environment in which work is performed. And there's all different kinds of workplaces. But basically, you either have various rooms or spaces, some area where you're working. And that room or space is designed, somebody lays it out, or maybe an architect. It's furnished and equipped. You bring in desks and chairs and so forth, and you equip it with computers and so forth, and you stock it with materials and supplies. So supplies would be things that you use and you have to replenish, like say paper or food. Materials are the other things that are not kind of nailed down, but you don't have to replace them all the time, like a bin or an inbox or something like that. So the idea is, in order to carry out your work activities, the workers who do the work need access to those materials and supplies, right? I mean, you're in there, you use paper. If you're a cook, you're cooking with the food. But you also need access to information. So that's part of organizing, is the information. And now materials and supplies are physical, right? I mean, you can see them. Information, it used to be all physical, basically in paper, right? Books and reports and binders and so forth. But now information can also be digital, computer files. So both of those fit into this framework. And I'll show you as we go through that all of what you're going to learn tonight works in the physical kind of bricks and mortar world, but it also works in the online virtual world. So the 5S organizing, it is that kind of system I've talked about. It gives you a way of doing this. And the basic idea is to clear clutter. So over here, you can see some things that are clearly cluttered, right? And the basic idea is a cluttered space impedes the work. It makes it harder to do the work. I don't have to sell you on that idea. Well, clear spaces facilitate work. So the purpose of this technique that you're going to learn tonight is streamlining those activities that go on within the workplace space and make them easier, safer, more productive, and even more enjoyable. Now, the 5S technique, as you're going to see, is applied to a particular space. So you don't bite off the whole workplace and say, let's get everything organized in, however many rooms there are or whatever. You focus on one space at a time, and a space is not necessarily the whole room. A space might be just your desk, or maybe a particular shelving section or whatever. So we'll go into how you do some of that. You're basically arranging and rearranging the materials, supplies, and informational items so that you support the worker who uses that. You might be that worker, there may be others, okay? But that's the whole idea, and that's really the motivation for 5S. It's not to make an area look pretty or even look organized. It's meant to support the workers who use those items, and that's really important. So 5S, what are the 5S? Well, there's 5 steps, and each one is an S. And you can see here on the side, the 5 steps are sort, straighten, scrub, standardize, sustain. And if you'll see references to 5S all over the place. There's a lot of different ways of describing it, and sometimes they use different words for these, scrub versus shine and so forth. But this is a basic idea. I feel these are pretty descriptive. It's of what the 5 steps are. Now, the first 3 steps, sort, straighten, and scrub, they're often completed in a single sort of a cleanup day. And so we'll go through that tonight. I'll show you how that is done. We'll go through an example space. The last 2 steps, which are standardize and sustain, those are actually steps that continue. So as I said, you make this part of your everyday work, and part of that is continuing to maintain the standards and even improve the standards. So you'll see how that works. They're part of really a continuing cycle of improvement. Excuse me. Now, the 5S technique is based on this common sense principle. I'm sure most or everybody has heard it or has referred to it. A place for everything and everything in its place. Okay, it's simple, incredibly powerful, incredibly important. Follow that. So a place for everything means that you know where everything should go. And we all agree on where is the place for the boxes of computer paper, where is the place for, this or that. And then everything needs to be in that place. So overall, the technique, it's relatively simple, it's intuitive, and that's important because, again, we're trying to get all employees involved in it, learn it, participate in the cleanup day, creating an initial standard for like, okay, this is what it's going to look like, and then maintaining that standard and even improving on it. All right, so here's the first 3 steps: sort, straighten, and scrub. So basically, you're cleaning up and straightening a physical space. It could be a digital space. We're not going to get into that much tonight, but I'll refer to it a little bit towards the end. But we'll call it a digital space, and we're using the existing furniture and equipment or software that you have in that space. So during this cleanup period, you're not making any major changes to furniture and equipment. You're basically rearranging the materials, supplies, and informational items. So the first one is sort. And when you do that, you're going to sort out the materials, supplies, and informational items, those 3 key things, into similar groups. Now, this is going to vary depending on what kind of space you are, but we'll go through an example in just a minute. But it's, and typically you always have one of the groups is trash, right? So, okay, these things need to go out. And another group is usually repurpose or give away. Like, okay, well, this is good stuff, but it doesn't belong here, or maybe we don't use it anymore. And then whatever remains, it might have different groups. Straighten, then, is the remaining items after you've kind of thrown out what's you're not going to keep. You decide how to put them back in a way they're more easily found and seen and grabbed, so you can grab a hold of them and put away. So largely, in simple terms, sort is kind of pulling all the stuff off the shelves or off the desk area seeing what you've got, putting into groups, and straighten is to put it back. Now you might do in a better way. Okay, so where you know what you have, and right away you will find some really nice gains in productivity as a result of that. You might rearrange your furniture a bit and the equipment, but nothing major. Okay, maybe you adjust some shelves and so forth. And then the last of the three is scrub, where you clean up, you shine the space, and it's important. It's important for visibility, it's important for safety, and just for feeling good about having that space to maintain. Now, there are more detailed rules about straightening. I'll talk about those briefly, after we have the question and answer at 7 o'clock. So those are the first three. The fourth S is to standardize. And here now here's where you try to get it more specific, get it better in terms of supporting the needs of the workers who use the space, the workers who use those stored items. So now you think more about what they do, how they use it, how often they access items, what kind of work do they do, in what location. Last time we talked about location being a gemba, so that's where the gemba walks occur, if you saw the first part. So considering all that, the key thing you're doing here is you're developing or updating visual controls. So now remember, that's the second of the lean techniques we're learning tonight. Here, the way it fits into 5S is basically things that help you to find or locate items like labels, color coding. And I will introduce you just shortly to visual controls, and we'll talk about that. But visual controls really applies to the remaining parts as well. So there's visual controls that support managing everyday work, visual controls that support improving the work and eliminating waste. So we'll focus in on just the 5S type controls for tonight. And in standardize, now instead of just using existing furniture, you might want to plan for and or acquire new furniture, new equipment, software, storage accessories like bins and kits. Your kits, like where you get all different items, have them all ready for you to go. Bins are incredibly useful. You almost can't overuse them. So again, remember now that standardize, this is something in your initial 5S effort, you will make a first shot at it, but because it's continuing, you don't have to be perfect. You don't want to spend a ton of time trying to figure this out, because as you get things organized and start working in the area, you're going to learn more and more ways in which the arrangement of the items can help you to do the work. So it's sort of like, on the job learning and improvement. And the last of the steps is sustain. And here, the first time through, you want to clearly document what the 5S standard is. So basically, that's whatever you established in that prior standardized step. You documented. A really easy way to do it is just take a picture or a few pictures of what it's supposed to look like after the event. And then make sure everybody who uses that space knows this is how it should be. And ideally, many or all the people who use the space actually participated in creating that standard. See, that's the best way, because then they're going to feel more of an ownership in it, and you won't have to really be, keeping on top of it. I mean, you always have to keep an eye on it, because these things do tend to degrade. But the more that everybody can be involved in actually creating the standard, the more they're going to be willing to maintain it and take some ownership in it. So that's important. Build the maintenance of the standard into everyday work, and it depends on the situation. There's one way. You see this little timer down here, I guess an egg timer or something like that. It's been mentioned a number of times. You don't have to do it, but the idea is every morning you have a little egg timer there, and you set it to 5 minutes, and you have 5 minutes to put things back into place. Simple, part of your everyday work. It doesn't mean you have to do that. Maybe you do something else. Or there's regular practices for reviewing and kind of refreshing and even improving on the standard. Like last time we talked about Gemba walks. So where the manager and maybe some other employees go out and walk and look at sites and look at the Gembas and the locations where the work is done. Or another way of doing it, we're also in the next part, we're going to be talking about daily stand-up meetings like this one here at City Furniture, one of our great lean partners. So there's different ways to do it, but the idea is to build it again into the everyday work that goes on. Okay. Now, let's actually get a little bit into the nitty-gritty of it, and you can see what I'm talking about and then, you know, hopefully apply it to your own situation. So here's I guess a shop, like a maintenance shop. Obviously pretty cluttered, pretty messy. And this was the subject of a 5S organizing session, and actually a continuing system like I've talked about, where they got better and better at it. So let's take a look, and I'm going to walk through how 5S would have worked in this space. So you can see, just looking at it, it looks like, you know, there's various kind of supplies over here, some tools, there's here's a jack, some lockers in the back. So this is chairs, looks like kind of a maintenance office. Maybe somebody even works out of here. There's a chair and a table, like a maintenance officer or so forth. So let's see how the 3S's or the 5S's would work. So first thing is we're going to sort. All right. So what do we do? Well, again, trash is always a good place to start. We're going to sort out the trash. Where's the trash? Well, down here, you see the little pop-up number there. This looks like trash. There's some trash over here on the shelves. So we're going to sort that out, kind of pull it off the shelf. Relocates. Okay, so that's the things that are, you know, I don't know that they really belong here. They're still good items. This table, this jack, some chairs. You've got this giant fan. Just don't seem very compatible with this space. I don't know. Maybe we'll end up figuring out how to leave it in there, but maybe want to relocate those items. Then you've got some of the things that are already on the shelves, like shop supplies, which are, looks like right there. There's some office supplies stuck down here that apparently they use to do some office kinds of work. There's some hand tools sitting back here on this shelf. And there's some power tools kind of scattered around. There's some here on the floor. I think there was some in this cabinet here and so forth. So that's the sort, okay? You don't have to be too specific. I mean, just kind of general, what are the different kinds of things that exist in the space? Okay, so now that we've sorted, and as I've said before, sorting is basically pulling the stuff off the shelf. Now you're going to need there's not much floor space here, so you might have to, some of this actually put right outside the door or in kind of a temporary space. But this is why you really want to do these first 3 steps as kind of a cleanup day, and maybe in about a 2 or 3 hour period, because it's going to be pretty messy for that period. So you want to limit how long it's in that state. But you may need to, you know, actually move some items out the front door, or, you know, keep them off to the side. Remove trash, clear space in front of the shelves. You know, you're going to have to get in here and put everything back in a better order. So that involves getting this desk out of here. Maybe you move it to the back of the room. Maybe again, it comes out. You can put it somewhere else. Clear the debris from the shelves. So you would have cleared the shelves by now, and clean them off, you know, wipe them down, get the dust and any little particles off that are most likely there. Then now you got clean shelves. So you've got the different items that could go back on the shelf: shop supplies, office supplies, and hand tools. Those are kind of the main areas. But you say, okay, these 2 sections are for the shop supplies, and this is for the office supplies, and this is for the hand tools. So at least you've organize them somewhat. You know what you've got. There is a place for them, right? Hand tools goes back here. If you got them over here, no, it's in the wrong place. Go back here. And then once you got that back up, power tools, you said, hey, we got a cabinet here. There actually were a few power tools. Let's get these power tools inside the cabinet. Oh, that's a good idea. Clean the surfaces, mop the floor, and you're done. Okay. Now, I don't have a picture of what that looked like at that stage, but I guarantee it looked way better than this, and you can kind of imagine what that looked like. Those are the first three S's. Now, they moved on to fourth S, which is standardize, and I'm going to show you the picture of it. And more than likely, the picture I'm going to show didn't happen in a day or so. It took a little bit of time to go through a few cycles, but it's basically, you could have done it in one day if you really were prepared. Here's before, there's after. Okay, that's what a standardized space looks like. So what would you rather work in? This place? What do you think is more effective, that place or that place? So it's pretty startling. So let's look at what actually happened here. So remember, this is standardized. So standardized. Well, we replaced the shelving. If you notice, this is all new, shiny shelving. Maybe could have gotten by with the old shelving, but it looked like it was getting kind of bent. And they went and replaced the shelving. Got some new bins, as you can see, all these yellow bins. As I said, bins are awesome. They could have color coded the bins, they didn't, but that's okay. You only do things if it's going to help the worker. If it didn't really help in this case, then don't do it. Added labels. Okay, you see all the labels in the fronts of the bins. Labels are a visual control. Example of a visual control. Put in floor markings, right? You see this yellow tape on the floor. What's the purpose of that? That's to lay out the area that there should be nothing there. That's an open area. Should be open for you just to walk, so people can walk to these back lockers. They can immediately get into the shelves and so forth. So you lay that out. That's another visual control, floor marking. Lock up the power tools. That's a good idea, right? So here's number 5. We got them into this cabinet. This was, I think, the old cabinet. We reused it, but we got a lock on it. We posted some information. Look at this, the notice, some things about what's inside the power tool cabinet. And those are informational items. So you have materials and supplies, and here, these are informational items. They're physical in this case. We don't have any digital ones here, but. And then lastly, we actually bought some new furniture. These are actually new lockers, a file cabinet. And look, a nice desk here where whoever works here with the drawers can do their work. All the office supplies, I'm sure, are located in here now. So it just makes such a big difference. Now, is this perfect? No, you can keep going. I mean, that's the beauty of this, is there's always the challenge, and they say, how can we make it better? So right away, they took all these, I'm not sure what they are, some kind of weird beacons or something, put them up top here, but I can imagine you trying to pull these things down, they're going to land on your head. You don't even know what you got here. So this definitely needs some kind of organizing. And then over here, all this space, as you're going to see on visual controls, unused wall space is just gold, okay? Because, people walk in and out of here all the time, and you could put all sorts of things up here. You could put, safety plaques, and you could put instructions and performance of how things are going, whatever. So this is an incredibly useful space that's not yet being used. And that's part of that continuing improvement idea. Okay, so visual controls. These are, I call them devices, but they're various kinds of things: charts, displays, markings, labels. They're devices in the workplace that make it transparent, make it visual, make it so you can see what's going on, that you can walk right through and know what's happening. You don't have to open up a book and look in a report to see what's happening. The idea, the reason a transparent workplace is so important is because, again, we're trying to partner with all the employees to do the work and improve the work. And to do that, though, they have to be given information and feedback. Okay, you can't be the mushroom and just be expected to know how to do all this without getting the feedback of what's working, what's not, and so forth. So that's really the purpose of the visual controls. And again, as you develop those, and we'll go into some guidelines for that in the field trial section later tonight. You keep that in mind. You're doing this for, again, not to look pretty or look like you're organized, but in a way that really gives that information and feedback to the workers and the managers who have to use it. As I said, they can be physical devices, charge displays, so forth. They can be digital devices like toolbars and email flags and file naming conventions. And again, I'm not going to go in real depth yet on this, but we'll touch on it a little more later on tonight. So there's really 5 types of visual controls. The finders are the ones we'll focus on a little more tonight because they're used as part of the 5S event. But I'll show you in just a minute here the other 4 types of controls that are used to support management and improvement of everyday work. But before I do, I want to show you this. This is my good friend and supplier, Paul Akers. So he was a supplier. He and I grew up in business together, really back in the 90s. I was, for those of you that weren't in the first session, my wife and I were co-owners and managers of a wholesale distribution company of cabinet and furniture hardware. And Paul had a company called Fast Cap, which he still does, made all kind of really neat hardware pieces and caps and so forth that my customers use. My customers were those that made cabinets and furniture. But Paul has just become a lean fanatic. I mean, he's written books, he's travels the world, he makes all kind of videos. And so I want to show you this short video. It's about 2.5 minutes of the kitchen that he has in his factory area. So this is for workers. And the purpose of showing this is for you, so you can see visual controls in action. This is a great view. You'll actually see all 5 types. So just go ahead and watch this and enjoy it. And it may actually give you some ideas for your own kitchens, but afterwards, then I'll go through the 5 types briefly and kind of reiterate what you saw here. So here we go. Paul Akers' kitchen.
This is Epic Lean Kitchen. I'm going to show you the coolest kitchen in the world, and of course it's a Fast Cap, and I'm going to show you all the neat things that we do to make it so easy to work in our kitchen and to eat at our lunch area. So watch this. Check out the lunch table. The salt and pepper shakers, they have a specific place, so they can't be strewn about. They have to go back exactly where they need to go, and as a result we have a highly organized lunch area. Even the paper towels have a spot. And of course, Windex, because I'm Greek, has a spot. So when it comes time to clean up, you simply take a paper towel, you spray your area, and you clean up, and you're done. That way, our table always stays perfect. Into our refrigerator area and our kitchen area, we have a cleaning chart here that shows exactly the steps for doing everything in the kitchen every day. So our kitchen stays perfect all day long. We even have a list of all the people who are responsible for kitchen duty on that particular week. My favorite is the dishwasher. Check this out. The dishwasher has a lot of great features because we made washing dishes very easy, because a lot of times one of the most confusing things is whether or not the dishes are clean or dirty. So we have this little Velcro dot. It happens to be one of our products, and if it's red on the outside, that means the dishes inside are dirty. If it's green, that means the dishes are either in the wash cycle or they're clean, so don't load it. But the next thing is when and how to start the dishwasher. To start the dishwasher, you just push button 1 and button 2. There is no guesswork on all these other buttons. You just push those 2 in that order, turn the dot over to green because you started the cycle, and you're done. But my favorite improvement to the dishwasher is right here. One of our employees came up with a great idea of zip tying a spoon, a fork, and a musket. Why? So that when you load the dishes, you get the spoons in the right place, you get the forks in the right place, and of course you get the dishes out. You don't have to sort them, so that saves time of motion and transportation because you get the right forks and knives the first time out without a whole bunch of sorting. It seems simple, but it actually makes a big deal, and it actually makes unloading a dishwasher fun. In our kitchen area, you can see that everything is clearly marked out. Even the microwaves, the bowls, the plates, the straws, everything is detailed out. Even our boxes up here, you can easily access them if you're not tall just by pulling on this little hole right here, and it tells you there's sugar and silver tins in there. Very strong visual controls. That's how you create an epic lean cook. That's how you create an epic, stop laughing at me, Kathy. Kathy's laughing at me over there. That's how you create an epic lean kitchen. Kathy?
So
This is
he's quite a guy, huh? But he's so effective, and he just, you can see he's if it's possible, he's more passionate about it than I am, and I'm pretty passionate. So okay, so let's kind of reflect on what you saw there. You saw actually 5 different kinds of visual controls, and I call this kind of the transparent workplace where you have all these controls in it. So the first type of control that you saw there were what I call finders, and this is related to the 5S organizing technique. So, and as we saw in the standardized step of the 5 S's, that's where you add and or upgrade some of these finders, like labels. He showed you the labels, right? Like there. Now, in a digital world, these might be folders, right, on your Windows desktop with various names, so you know where to find certain documents, digital documents, and so forth, PDFs, and et cetera. So I'll go into this in a little more detail after we break for questions. That's the first of the 5 types, is what I call finders. Then the next 3 have to do with the standard work technique that you'll get into. We'll get into if you hopefully are in the part 4 webinar, which is coming up in 3 weeks. And there's various devices that, for example, you have how-tos, learn and remember how to perform tasks and physical movement. So you saw that little chart on the refrigerator, right? How to clean out the refrigerator. Very visual, right? Remind people how to do it. Or you might have floor markings, like here you see, you know, how to go in, out, marking areas where you should be or not be. So that's how-tos. Action cues, be reminded of triggered or for the need to take action. So remember, you saw these 2 little salt and pepper shaker spots here. And if you see nothing there, it's a trigger to say, whoa, where is the salt and pepper? I'm going to put it back. Okay. So, or it can be like in this case, where you have, these are probably toner cartridges. I don't know. I guess we still have those in some copiers, but keeping them all there stacked, and you know, when it gets down to maybe the bottom row, it's time to order. So it's a trigger of that sort. And then real-time displays are kind of, what is the current status of assets, like the dishwasher in this case? What's the current status of the dishwasher? Is it washing or not? And that affects whether you load it or not. It affects how you do the work. At City Furniture, they use a red flag, green flag system for their different work areas, just whether they're on target for the day or not. And if there's a problem, they need some help, they'll put up the red flag and a supervisor will come over. Now that's in a bigger operation, but same type of idea. So all these, again, give feedback to the people who do the work and the managers who are involved in it, that help them to actually do that work in the best possible way. Then the 5th type of visual control are performance trackers. And these are, like in this case, the little kitchen duty check marks, like, okay, how are we doing? Well, these are the people that are supposed to be doing the kitchen duty and the cleanup, and are they doing it? Is the check. When we get into part 4, I'll show you about this idea of a process tracker and how it relates to waste elimination. So those are the 5 types of visual controls. All right, so I just wanted to reflect a minute, and then we'll be wrapping up this part of and taking other questions if needed. But I want to reflect a little bit on the different types of spaces, because you've learned kind of a general way of organizing and setting up visual controls, but really it has to be work for whatever kind of space you're in and whatever kind of work is done. And so I want to reflect on that a little bit. And we've been looking mainly in physical spaces, but there are digital spaces, okay? Now, they're all accessed through something physical, right? I mean, until we start having devices that read our minds or something. Basically, you have usually, computer monitor, desktop, laptop, and or, smartphones. but that's the physical part where you access, for example, on your Windows desktop, all kinds of files. You have Microsoft Outlook, perhaps, or other email servers where you communicate. So that was kind of the early creation of these digital spaces. But then more recently, we're seeing social media sites now where you can interact with your customers in a digital world, right? In the cloud, through Facebook, LinkedIn, so forth, Google search. Customers can order if you're into the restaurant or hospitality area, or online ordering sites, they can interact with you. And in office situations, there's more and more collaboration platforms, Microsoft Teams, and right now we're collaborating on Zoom and Google Drive and so forth. So the point is that depending on your business, these may be a small part of your business or a large part. But regardless, these digital spaces need organization just like the physical spaces. And I'll talk a little bit about the Windows desktop in the field trials, and maybe we'll talk about some of these more in future parts. But they definitely are part of this, and we are learning more and more how to organize digital spaces, like organizing a collaboration platform. In some respects, is like organizing an office space. There are rooms, right? Those of you that are in Microsoft Teams, there's rooms and there's channels, and you have Slack is another one that is involved with this. So those are digital spaces. You have various kinds of support, supply rooms, warehouse racks, file rooms, mail rooms, break rooms like the kitchen area we just saw with Paul Akers' Fast Cap kitchen, bathrooms. So all these need organizing. And then if you kind of step back and just look in general at the general workplace types, this kind of relates to the kind of business you have and what you do. So it might be offices, where it could be personal offices space, which could be a home office, right? I mean, that's more and more people are working from home in various capacities, and that's absolutely a space that needs organizing. Could be a shared office space. Could be more like a factory or a wholesale space where you're moving goods, healthcare, retail, hospitality. So all these have kind of special circumstances, special needs, but they are nevertheless all spaces that can be organized with 5S, and you just need to learn how to adapt the 5S techniques to whatever it is your space looks like. Okay, so wrapping up here, as I say, this is higher performance, lower stress. All lean management is that way, but specifically for what you've learned tonight, here's how you get higher performance and lower stress. It's going to be easier to find what you want, right? You know what a pain it is if you can't find things. It slows you down, it hurts your performance, and it's stressful too. Less walking, less reaching. Things should be more within reach. Less chance of harming yourself, breaking your back, or pulling all that junk off the top shelf there to landing on your head. Missing or damaged goods are clearly visible. This is really important, okay? Because when things are messy and cluttered, you might have some damaged stuff in there and you don't know it. So you grab it and you think it's good, and you end up finding in the field that it's not good, or things are missing. So you can tell right away if it's missing, because like with that salt and pepper shaker, it's missing, it's not there, right? Your purchasing is better, it's more timely because you can see when things are not there. It's more accurate because actually, how many times have you ordered something, a case of paper, copy paper, and then it came in and you try to put it away and you go, oh, I didn't realize I had a whole case behind the shelf. So all of that improves. It's more efficient use of the space. Often you can consolidate and use less space. And if you remember the shop space, the maintenance space we looked at, they actually opened up enough space to make a little office area there, right? So more efficient use of space, and it feels good to work in a clean and organized area. So again, no, to me, this is just one of those nuts and bolts, simple thing, but boy, it can really help. And There's your happy person. These are the things you would be doing. You choose a space. Don't take anything too big, but not too small either. Try to stay away from a purely digital space. I'd say either like a supply closet type of thing, or maybe an office, like a desk or an office cubicle. Choose the space, but you want to be able to, again, do that first 3 steps, that cleanup in about 3 hours, 4 hours max, maybe less. Plan the event. Now, if there's multiple users of the space, like I say, here's where you, as much as you can, try to get them involved in it. It's actually a fun kind of team exercise to do this. And but you know, if not, at least you do it on your own. Schedule it and then start it. Take before pictures. Okay, that really is always helpful, and it really is kind of neat to reflect back on how things looked. So now you got the event started. So this, what you see on this screen is what you should be doing all in that, say, about a 3-hour period. So you're sorting. We talked about that. Now here's the red tagging idea. So as you're sorting things out and you're making that hard decision about should I trash this or not, one way to kind of get around that is you put a red tag on it. And on the tag it says, this is going to be discarded, you know, 3 months from now. Put a 3-month date. But if you want to keep it, you know, call such and such or whatever. So that way, I mean, because a lot of times you keep things around and then you don't use them for 2 years. So this is a way of kind of getting around that. So this idea of a red tag. Straightening, again, we talked about how to straighten, kind of get things back in order using existing furniture. There are rules for straightening that I'll show you in just a second that were sent to you. And then, of course, the scrub and shine part of it. So the rules for straightening, basically, I won't go through these in detail. Again, you feel free to ask questions, or you can send me email or text questions. Basically, finding the locations of where things should be. Don't overload shelves. Don't put things behind other things. And here I do show you in a physical world versus digital world how these rules apply. Making things accessible, making things visible, clear labels, even just facing your labels forward. I mean, you think it's a little thing, but it actually helps. So those are the rules for straightening that were sent to you that you can follow as you go through. Then you have the last 2 steps. So you would do those first 3. Maybe you could do those first 3 sometime next week. Okay. Maybe kind of this week use to schedule it and do that next week. You'll still have 1 more week then to come back and kind of standardize and apply the labels and see how you can improve it. And here there's a couple of guidelines I'll show you that were sent to you that help you in designing the visual controls. Maybe you update, get some new bins or something. Bins are always great. And then the sustain, take that after picture, which you can use. You can even just post it up there and say, hey, this is what it should look like. And maybe ask others what ideas they have for maintaining it. Again, get them more involved and feeling more of an ownership. And then reflect on it. Whatever beneficial effects, celebrate. It's like, wow, this is cool. So here's the visual control guidelines. You can read through them. I mean, basically, the key thing is you want these devices to be simple, legible, easy to interpret, easy to use, easy to update, accessible. Just gives you an idea. A lot of it is common sense. Now, here are the sample kinds of visual controls for 5S organizing. So depending on your space, you may want some floor markings, wall markings. This is called a shadow box sometimes, where you have like the outline of different tools, or you have table markings like you saw in the video. Labels and colors show you what's in a drawer or a bin, because there's nothing worse than a bunch of bins and drawers and you don't know what's in them. So you feel like you're organized, but you may not be. So you want to be able to see what's in there. Here's where color coded can help a lot. Sometimes you even put, if there's stuff in the drawer, you put a sample in the front. So it gives you ideas for how to identify what's inside a bin or a drawer. And then lastly, if there's any digital information items, standards for file and folder naming and numbering are actually can be really helpful, because we often don't come up with that, and over time you build up a bunch of files, and it gets to the point where you can't find things. So it's really worth taking a little time to think about, how do I organize them and give the name so I can see right away. I look on my desktop and I see things right away of where it is, and I know where to find things. So that is it. I thank you for listening.